say hello when you get in the chat. We always want to hear from you guys. Ask a QQ anytime, either sport. We're ready for it. And give us the like, the thumbs up. That means a lot. And it's 20% off for everything at BetQL if you use the promo code BobbyFi. Having said that, Sheets, we got a big day. We got basketball, which is actually a fun slate to me. And then we've got baseball tonight, which is a crazy slate. So let's get into it, man. This is going to be a fun one. What are your sort of initial thoughts on this basketball slate? I think we'll start there.
What if you gave 21% off if they gave the thumbs up and the like?
I feel like it should be a lot more than that. So hopefully we can get a little bit more than that from people at some point.
So hey, you're the man with the 2-game slate in the NBA. I have my ideas, and we'll get through it. In baseball, we could spend forever on tonight's slate. But I'm glad that we did our little thing before, because maybe it'll only take us 6.5 hours to get through it on this thing. No, it won't be that bad. But
it's a struggle, that one.
We didn't even talk about. Is there any weather today in baseball? We'll
none that I noticed that was anything risky a game. I'm still a little wary of the weather in San Diego and LA, just because I'm here, and it's the worst pollution in the world right now, with everything, all the fires and everything. And Sunday, I don't know if they would have been able to do it, but it was the worst air quality in the history of Los Angeles, I believe. So, yeah, right now I'm planning everything playing, but. We'll get into all that. We'll talk about basketball. By the way, Eric Johnson in our chat, who's always here with us, which we love, he says congratulations on the win Sunday. He wasn't with us yesterday, so another shout out to Sheets. I know you're very comfortable with getting touted as the man, but another nice weekend. But yeah, man, let's jump right into it. It's a really good slate for a 2-gamer in my mind, because you get a game 1 where who knows what could happen, and you get a game 7 where you pretty much know basically what the rotations will be. With Denver, there's some up in the air, so we'll get into that. But let's start off. We're going to go game by game here. We're going to start off with the first one. Guys, we're not going to call the screen up because it doesn't work as well, but go ahead and ask any questions. If there's anything you want to see, we'll get into it. By the way, thanks, Chad. Appreciate it. He says, good call on James Washington. Wish I would have stuck with it myself a little bit more than I did, but James Washington definitely would have been fine last night to play on that slate, so he did catch that touchdown pass. Anyway, let's get into it. Miami Boston, do you have a take on, it's a 1.5 point spread. It's only a 209 total. Cheats, I know you're Mr. Under, especially in the playoffs, but this is a game 1. I feel like game 1s, there might be more opportunity to sort of play a little bit looser, a little bit more free. You also do have the rust factor, though, which sort of plays against it. Miami could be rusty. They haven't played in a while. Do you like either team to specifically win or cover, or do you like anybody do you like any straight bets in this game?
Yes, I think I always looked at it the opposite way. I think that I prefer to take Miami in this spot. I always like to go against the team coming off the big emotional 7-game series. I prefer to take the rest of the team that polished them off in 5. That's just the way I've looked at it. So I prefer to take Miami in this spot.
All right. I think it's interesting. So you want the team with the rest. I tend to like teams that are still in the habit of playing, but I kind of am with you a little bit tonight. And, I think that I actually like the Celtics in this series in 7. I think it's really close. I have it really, really close. But I think I would take Miami. And look, you're getting a little bit of a bump there. They're a slight underdog here. You obviously don't need to take the points or anything. Just bet them straight up to win because it's only 1.5 points. But I don't mind giving the edge to Miami a little bit. Is there any worry? It's Jimmy Butler's birthday. I know they're all in quarantine, but is there a chance maybe we get a little bit of a hungover Jimmy Butler?
Sure.
These birthday things the birthday games during the regular season are real narratives in the NBA. I don't think in a bubble in the playoffs they might not be as important. But hangovers are rough, man. It's hard to play with a hangover. So, all right. I also think that one thing we want to look at in this game is while the minutes projections are high, I've got my own personal projections as everybody basically playing less minutes, with the exception of maybe Jimmy Butler, than they're projected for on the other sites across that I've looked at, which there's only 2 other sites so far, but that's where I'm at. All right, let's get into it. Miami side of it, DFS-wise, what are we looking at? I think that it's tricky on DraftKings to play Jimmy Butler, but I think on FanDuel, you could play him alongside Paul George.
So for me, I kind of want to start with I'm going to piggyback off of something you said earlier before we got on started. Is just overall, I'm finding myself kind of like you. I'm finding myself with many more pieces from the other game with respect to building the lineups. So I'm looking for my favorite plays from this game to kind of fill it out. I actually, again, you can tell me he's going to be really popular. I didn't even realize, but I figured everybody's popular in a 2-game slate. But I like Kemba today, and just the reason why is because for those of you who hadn't been following the last series, something pretty unprecedented in the NBA. I mean, you don't really see this too often, but Nick Nurse actually played boxing one on Kemba Walker for basically the whole series, at the very least the last 3 games, which you really never get with when you have, unless it's like a total superstar stud that was like a one-man team. And that was very, very surprising to me that they did that. And so Kemba, by its very nature, had less opportunity than he otherwise would have. And I just think he's going to get a little relief off of that in this series. And I think he's gonna do really well. And so he would probably be my favorite play from the Boston side.
Okay. So that's the thing I'm running into also, and I don't like it because I'm doing the same thing a little bit, and I don't like that I'm doing that because on the Boston side, I agree completely with all the points. Like they play the boxing one and Kemba. The truth is that Toronto has done that all during the seasons and stuff. They've actually played the games, that regular season games, that way. And Miami doesn't do the same thing, but they really limit point guard production. They basically are pretty good at limiting whoever the best player is, but that's not Kemba anyway in this case.
Yeah.
It's interesting. The price makes me want to play him. I feel like at $8K plus, I would probably, and it's such a small difference, but I think he's a good play, but I think that at 50% ownership, I certainly could look other paths, and it makes me kind of want to just jump over and take a look at what if we just flipped it and played a much lower owned Goran Dragic on the other side, whose team is actually in a lot of ways kind of relied on him more than Kemba's relied on these days, and actually probably has I don't want to say he has a safer thing because I could see this game where Hero gets hot, or even Kendrick Nunn, which we'll get into in a minute. But I think overall, Dragic has been sort of the engine driving this team, and you could argue that he's more important in his role in their offense than Kemba is almost in Boston's offense. So I'm just kind of going a little bit, if you want, you're going to get 1/3, 1/4 the ownership on Dragic. That might be an interesting pivot right there in itself.
I definitely think he's got a better, it's weird to say, but I think he's got probably a better floor actually than Kemba if you think about it. I mean, I don't know. He's just he's consistently doing his thing, and Kemba's just got a much more wide range of outcomes, I think. But again, that's I guess so. I mean, I'm trying to find someone from this game, and Kemba worked out to be my favorite, at least especially on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's position scarcity is kind of an issue, so I find myself getting Tice at power forward over there. But again, what I'm doing, I guess we continue to go game by game, but I'm just so slate driven with this that I'm okay, I'm going to start with Jokic, and then you just kind of have to, in my opinion, go with Paul George and some of this other stuff, and then I'm just left with decisions to be made in the Celtic game, and it always comes down to Kemba for me. That's just where I'm at.
Okay, well, I'm going to go through my I'm going to go through my Miami side first of all, because I think you need this game in order to pay for some of the other spots in the other game.
Yep.
So one of those guys is Andre Iguodala. You just wouldn't surprise me at all if he played 20. His minutes are going to fluctuate at times, and it's very strange. He'll have games where he doesn't play. He'll play his rotation, and then all of a sudden, with a minute and a half left, he'll end up coming into close with just a minute and a half. Because he's such a good defender. So he's got always a little bit of a sneaky extra upside. Not to say the game's going to go into overtime, but just in case something like that does happen, you would figure he'd be a factor in that. His usage is terrible, but I think they're going to do their job and try and stop Butler and the other guys. And I think that, it's just at this price, we can take a shot here. There's other guys we can take a shot at cheap prices, but we might need multiple of them. So Iguodala is one. The better probable play, the one is Kelly Olynyk. The upside, he can play himself into more minutes if he gets kind of hot. The only problem is, so far in the playoffs, that really hasn't been the case. Boston doesn't really play big or need to. You don't need to play two bigs against them. Then again, you might be able to get away with it. He's actually played well against his former Celt team in a couple of meetings. I'm not going for a narrative-driven thing. I'm going for who else can get minutes and make us some money. So those are the bottom 3 guys who would show up projections-wise. That's Iguodala, Olynyk, and Kendrick Nunn. But if we really need some savings, I want to play all the Clipper guys. Tonight is not the night I want to fade Kawhi. Tonight is not the night I actually, as bad as Paul George has been in elimination games, he's going to play 40 minutes. The guy's going to get 35 fantasy points by accident. If he plays okay, he's going to get 50. And I feel like Kawhi's like that with 50, but he could get 75. Like, that's what we're looking at. It's like that's the range for those guys. So we need these values. We can even live. By the way, I cashed deep. I think I finished 8th in the big buy-in with one entry. And I played the wrong Williams in one lineup a week ago. I played the wrong Williams on he gave me all of 6 fantasy points, and I still cashed at 8th place because you can do that kind of thing on these weird 2-game slates. Now, obviously you're not going to win a tournament with Kendrick Nunn scoring 8 points. But what if Kendrick Nunn plays well coming off the bench in this spot and gets his 20 minutes like he got in the last game? And what if he can put up 15 for me? I'd be thrilled. If he can put up but there's a chance like he could play 20-plus minutes because he can shoot his way into the game. What if a guy like Crowder – what if a Hero and Butler pick up foul trouble, or one of them? What if Duncan Robinson does? There's a lot of ways that I can see Kendrick Nunn getting some extra – what if Dragic does, by the way? He can get a little handsy at times. These are interesting, man. These are freaking interesting plays, and I think you have to speculate on these game ones. This is a totally different series than they played in the last game that Miami did. Kendrick Nunn might be more a part of this. He might not be. But you saw even at the end of the last series, he played 17, 20 minutes. Let's speculate a little bit and take a shot here. I'm going to talk myself into it even more because I think he's got the highest minutes upside projection of anybody in these games. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's projected to play between 7 and 11 minutes wherever you look. And I think there's a chance he plays 20 plus. It's unlikely, but it's possible.
You know who's got, I don't want to say the least minutes upside. I guess that's the best way to describe it, but he's developed quite a decent minutes floor nowadays is Jay Crowder. I mean, he's literally playing 30 minutes a game, like guaranteed pretty much nowadays.
Yep.
And he's probably one of my safer guys to throw in from this game. If I was going to go on the Miami side, he's in my initial DraftKings lineup, actually.
You can tell Miami's got a good basketball team. They have all these guys. They have the ex-Boston guys in Olynyk and Crowder who are just like the perfect filler players, like the perfect 6th and 8th best players on a good team. You know what I mean? And then they've got Iguodala, who is like the perfect 7. You know what I mean? That's how you know it's a good team. And then everybody else sort of interchangeable, basically, almost, except for Butler and somewhat Dragic. But I think it's kind of interesting because there's a lot of past history and Crowder's another guy who's played well against his former team. I actually think that I might be on fading him tonight at 5.8 because. First, there's a lot of things that could happen. Iguodala could play more minutes. Duncan Robinson could get hot and play more minutes with Hero on the court, which would keep Crowder off maybe. They do need good defensive wings because of how tough these wings are, so you'd think he'd be out there, but that also lends itself to potential foul trouble. I'm just trying to play game flow and potential environment. And at 5.8, I don't think not playing him crushes me almost ever because he almost never gets 40 here. So I'd rather play the upside of Michael Porter at 5.2, and maybe he does get 35 or 40 and save that little extra bit for you. Even though Crowder is clearly the safer play. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what do you think of two guys at the same price who they remind me of each other a little bit? Is Hero and Porter are both very similarly priced on DraftKings. You prefer Porter to Hero?
Well, that's really, really – wait. Michael Porter – no, I don't even think of it like that because the guard position is so much stronger – than the forward position tonight in terms of whatever. So I'm not really that – I like Hero a little bit on FanDuel because he makes some things work at shooting guard at 5K. Okay. But as just a shooting guard eligible player, I've got Paul George. I've got Patrick Beverley, who's almost a near must play or close. We'll have that conversation at 4K. So how do I get Hero to play Hero? That means I'm playing Kemba and Hero. That's it. You know what I mean? So it really does narrow my whole thing. Whereas if I play one of the forwards, I can mix it up with different guards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I'm lower on, even though Hero's Hero's going to probably score more often and going to play more minutes more often than Porter does, but he's not going to have the score that might help you win here. And he's also doesn't have the position at flexibility, which you need.
Yeah, that's funny. I have I have one lineup here, and that's all I was going to do. I was going to play one lineup in some bigger single entries and whatever it was.
Well, yeah, you got all that cash now. You got to throw something around. It's the rule.
Well, bigger for me is 50. So and I was going to play one lineup in five things. And the first thing I was going to do as I was going through this is in the lottery ticket tournament. I was thinking of actually going to go pivot just swap Beverly, who's going to be probably chalky, for like Kendrick Nunn and leave like 800 on the table or something like that, which can be pretty freaking disgusting.
That might be overdoing it a little bit. I like the idea of playing those guys together. I don't think you need, like, if you're playing Kendrick Nunn and he gets there, you're good. Like, you know what I mean? You're not necessarily going to win the tournament with just that, but you don't need to necessarily make that extra bold play on top of it too. I think you need your salary tonight. I think you can leave like 400 or 500, but I don't think, like, maybe in a big buy-in, sure. I mean, I want a big field, sure. Like, you can do whatever you want, but it's in regular tournaments, I don't know that I would do that. I do think that we have some interesting guys to talk about on the Boston side that are really uninteresting guys in general.
Okay.
We can speculate with Brad Wanamaker. There's a chance that you might see him running around because Miami switches everything and they've got all these rangy guys, but Boston's going to have to be switching quite a bit as well. Now, they've got also the same kind of rangy guys, but Wanamaker, somebody I could see getting out there, and it's potentially you could see upside on the 15-minute projection. He's basically out throughout the industry to maybe 18 to 20, which maybe he get you 15 fantasy points. Not as exciting. To me, Kendrick Nunn is the higher upside, way lower floor play, even though neither of them are exciting. The other one is Robert Williams. I think Robert Williams might end up being the best potential value because he didn't play. So he actually got time in was it games? Did he miss game? No, he did play game 7. He actually got more minutes in game 7 than he had gotten in the other games against Toronto, which kind of surprised me. But if you early in the series, I think it's safer to assume that he's going to get more run and they're going to sort of feel things out. I also think with the size difference with Bam, and if they do play Olynyk and they're having any trouble, I don't expect too much of Robert Williams and Tice together, but you might see a minute or two. And Robert Williams Tice can always get in foul trouble. Like Robert Williams might actually end up being out there for 20 minutes. So he's the other value we have to decide with here. The only possible problem is every now and then you're going to get that Cantor run instead. And I don't think I can play Cantor, but like there's what's that?
Cantor hasn't played in like 5 games, right?
But he played in the first series.
Yeah.
Or no, he didn't. He played a little bit in the first series. Yeah, he did actually. Oh no, he did play. He played a lot at the rate. Yeah, he did. He played in the first series. He played. He was playing good minutes actually in the first series. We would be playing him. We knew they switched to Williams with the matchup against Toronto, but I don't know that. And again, they probably will against Miami as well. But you might need minutes out of the bigs here against Bam. And we didn't talk much about Bam. I think he's a very fine play. I personally would rather spend up at center for Jokic, or I would spend down for Zubac, which I don't feel great about. But I don't feel Bam is 100%. You have to play him, but I think he's a very strong play against a weak front line. Although Tice has been pretty good this year overall, and actually Robert Williams has too. But I'm looking for this game for value. That's why I'm talking about these guys. Over on FanDuel, actually is not a whole lot different. I'm just not playing the Tatums, the Browns, the Smarts today. I'm sticking with my guys. I'll play a little bit of Tice. I'll play a little bit of Robert Williams on this side, and maybe throw in Wanamaker. But more, I like the Miami value and speculating. By the way, I didn't mention his name either, but you can always play Duncan Robinson. And Duncan Robinson on DraftKings is a better play than he is on FanDuel today. But I think he's totally in play every time he steps on the court. There's always a way for him to shoot himself into 30-plus fantasy points, and he's never going to be very high owned.
Yeah. So I was following along your review of the center stuff when you're talking about Bam. Whether you're saying I prefer to either spend up or Jokic or spend down on whoever you said. Was it Zubac? But you could play, like I was saying, and you alluded to it. You could play Robert Williams instead of Zubac if you wanted to. Like I happen to really like Zubac. You usually don't like Zubac as much as I do. So
I like him. I mean, I've seen the minutes be consistent there, and he's missed an absurd number of like shots right by the rim.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, like you just kind of alluded to something when we were talking about Enes Kanter. Just because a guy didn't play that many minutes in the last couple of games, I mean, doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to be scripted into this particular type of matchup. You know what I mean? Because it's a whole different deal. So maybe guys like, for example, look against whoever the hell the Clippers are playing before. I don't even remember. It's been so whatever. But I guess right now Zubac is the same series. So what am I talking about? But yeah. So I guess Zubac's minutes are pretty safe over there.
But they're not entire. Like I wouldn't be shocked if. I mean, we'll get into that game in just a second. But like I wouldn't be shocked if JaMychal Green closes that game. I wouldn't be shocked.
You're not going to go. We're not going to keep praying that Montrezl Harrell gets more than 18 minutes.
Well, no, it's no. Look, when you see the writing on the wall in a game, in a throwback game like Game 6, that's fine. But also, like, I stand 100% by what I was saying about Harrell. And I think, to be honest, you know who might have been wrong the whole time, and that might be Doc Rivers, not me. And I'm not saying he's been good while he's been in there, but I'll tell you one thing. You know who has been really good when he's been there? You know who's the best plus-minus differential and is the highest-rated defensive player in this series? Lou Williams. So, and I've heard this talk that, they're hunting Lou Williams, they're doing all that, and I've seen it. I've watched it. It's not working. This is a guy who's been way, way better. I don't understand. The Lou Williams-Harrell combination has not been the nightmare. The nightmare has been the Harrell on the court, period, basically. Right. But anyway, it's just I think that Doc might have some explaining to do if they lose the series. So
I'm more into your comment from like 15 minutes ago, which I can't wait to get to, regarding the Clipper game, because I've just kind of fallen into this habit every day of just Xing out Kawhi and playing Paul George and not even worrying about it. And you don't think that this is the slate to fade Kawhi?
No, I don't think it's the game to fade Kawhi. It's a Game 7. Never fade Kawhi in a Game 7, period. Okay. He could be 11-5 that I'd be playing him. Okay. He becomes the other guys. Like, so in that, he had it's funny. Let's take Game 7 last year, the game where he hit the 500 bouncer against Toronto. Right. I think in that game he was like 11 for 40 or something. Like, he took like 40 shots. He took like 14 threes or something ridiculous. I don't remember the exact numbers. I don't have them in front of me. But if you look at Kawhi's history in closeout games, but not to mention like Game 7s, he's been just unbelievable. And I think there's no way he doesn't get 50 fantasy points tonight. Like, no way. And I think there's very little chance that he's less than 60 if this game is close. Right. I mean, I guess a blowout, you could see him like, but even then, they've had 2-out leads that they've already let slip away. I don't think these guys are all coming out when they're up 20. They were up 19 and 18 the last 2 games. So I think that you have to play Kawhi for the most part. I might have one big lineup without him, but mostly he's going to be the majority of my lineups, as will Paul George. I'm going to play both of them. They're going to play 45 million minutes, and I feel really good about them. So I'm just going to stick with that. I think Jokic in general struggles more with undersized bigs rather than traditional bigs. And I actually don't think they've done that bad of a job on him. I think he's just been great. But it is that was sort of my thinking before with Harrell, is that guys like Harrell have given him trouble in the past, whereas Zubac is he's a better fundamental and like team communicative defensive player, like in some ways, but he's the same size, and Jokic is used to banging on those guys, and a smaller, quicker guy like Harrell has given him trouble, which brings me back to my other value play of the day, which is JaMychal Green.
Okay, I need something. All right, good.
So JaMychal Green is the other one, and he probably makes more sense than the other guys. He's been getting the run in these games. There's a chance that you could see him closing, because they were actually better with him on the court quite a bit. His minutes have fluctuated in this series, but overall he's averaged almost 20 a game, 19 and a half. And he's projected for 16. Now those minutes could easily be 12 and they could be 22. He could also be unproductive in those minutes like he was in Game 4 in this series. But if he has the usual thing and puts up his 16 to 20 fantasy points, you're going to want that if you want to play the guys I want to play, because I want to play Kawhi and Paul George. I like the idea of playing Lou Williams, but it feels – I think I actually might have to – I'm definitely going to play him on FanDuel. But on DraftKings, it's hard to get him in because of the way my builds are going. But how do you if I'm the Clippers and I see that this guy has been so much better, that we've been so much better with him on the court than everybody else, and he's a great player who's a great shooter, I don't really understand, other than the defending. I mean, if you play him with Beverly, this is what I think they should do, and what I'm saying. You play him with Beverly, Kawhi, Paul George, your main lineup, whatever it is, or your closing lineup, and either Marcus Morris or JaMychal Green. That's what I think you might see from them tonight. Instead of having to choose one of him or Beverly, you're going to see them on the court together more. That's my personal take. I think the automatic plays in this game, if you're playing cash, would be Beverly, Zubac, and George. But I think that overall you want to get Kawhi, Paul George, and you want Beverly and one of Green, probably Green, maybe Williams.
Okay. So you like, because that's why I have Beverly, Lou Williams, and Zubac already.
Yeah. And then I actually think Jeremy Grant people are going to get off of. I don't think he's going to have the high ownership that people think he's going to. So I don't mind taking a shot on him, and he could get the minutes. I mean, the games are fluid. I mean, look, I know he didn't play the end of the previous game, but he still played 36 minutes in that game. He only played 20 in the last game. I actually thought they should have done this before and gotten him out of there more. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Your preferred plays on Denver, obviously Jokic. I think Murray is going to be the guy who I might have less of than you would think. I might have to get him into one big one. I'm making a little note now. But mostly I don't have as much interest in Murray. I have to keep away from some guys, But Jeremy Grant, Michael Porter, I would give the edge to Michael Porter, even though Jeremy Grant is projected to play 700 minutes. I like the upside, and I love Gary Harris. Going to play in minutes. He's going to play until he fouls out. He will foul out tonight. I'll bet anything he probably does foul out. And then Millsap is your speculative play.
What's his name? Patrick Beverly really foul out in like 16 minutes?
I don't know. Did he foul out?
I'm pretty sure
it's possible. It's completely possible.
I'm sure he played 18 minutes and fouled out. Yep.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to happen, man.
That's fine by me.
Yeah, as long as the guy's going to play. I mean, I can't control all that. And he is annoying. Like, I don't think in a game set, like some of those calls they made on him, I think were pretty egregious. I saw one, and it might have been his fifth or something. I didn't know he fouled out though. But it was like really, really bad. Anyway, I also think that just to throw one thing out there, I would bet the Clippers win this game. I don't know if I'd want to lay 7.5 points, but I do think that the NBA has proven time and again that in these borderline situations, and I love the NBA and it's the best all this stuff, it's human. And I think that, I don't know, I'm not going to say that there's any fix-in or anything like that. I'm a Laker fan, and I've seen games that I can't believe the late calls Lakers got in some playoff games. I think everybody in the media or in the NBA wants the Lakers to play the Clippers in the conference finals, but that doesn't mean Jamal Murray couldn't make 9 threes and change everything.
If the Clippers blow this, having been up 3-1 and up 15 in both Game 5 and 6, it could be like the biggest choke in NBA history. I mean, honestly, like this is so bad. First of all, they're 10 points better than them. Okay. We're in position to close them out 2 games in a row, and Mike Malone sucks. You know what I mean? Like if you can't beat Denver, I mean, like when these types of advantages, I mean this is terrible. I mean I'm telling you, if they're up 16 today, and Denver scores literally 2 points, he should call a timeout immediately and just like yell at his freaking team and say, I have all my money on our team plus 30, minus 35.5, and I want to cover this freaking spread. You know what I mean? You can't because one thing that Doc Rivers is atrocious at is when letting teams come back and not calling timeouts to stem the tide. He is literally the nut low. All right. And he's proven it. And my son like laughed about it during the regular season even. You know what I mean? And so someone's got to just remember, just tell him, listen, Denver's been game, but we are so much better than this freaking team. We are maybe Patrick Beverly's going to have to be the guy. You know what I mean? Because Kawhi's not going to yell at anybody. You know what I mean? Like, I think maybe Patrick Beverly's
the alpha of this team. There's not even a question about it. And the one thing I'll say about basketball is that, like, as Kawhi, and he does have he plays like an alpha guy, but he's not out there yelling at guys. He's not talking on about that kind of stuff. He's not going to get in your face on your own team and that kind of stuff. It's Beverly who does all that. The problem is Beverly plays like such a spaz sometimes. Doesn't really lend itself to being like a comforting tense. You know, it's not like LeBron's over there who's just super calm and smooth and only yells at the officials and never gets in trouble. But so we just going to address a few questions in chat. Eric asked before, is Bam a must play? Eric is one of my awesome guys. He's been awesome. He's always around. One of my things I hate is must plays or locks and things like that because I don't believe that's the way these games work. And occasionally there might be a guy that is. And I like Bam tonight. I think he's in a great spot. But like, there's a lot of guys who are good, who are just as good, if not better, plays than Bam. And I certainly don't think he's a must play. But in general, you'll almost never hear me say anybody's a must play. That's just not the way that these things work for me. But I'm trying to see what else is.
Wait, let me comment.
Paul George is in my lineup. Eric says, yes, I have no problem with Kawhi and Paul George in the same lineup. It's not. Don't worry too much about negative correlation in Game 7s when you're going to have. It's going to be condensed usage between your best players. Keep going. Sorry, Shoots.
Yeah, I was going to address Eric's comment about his either Porter or Millsap closing. I'll take whichever one is lower owned. Well, I mean, Millsap is certainly going to be lower owned. I mean, that's I think that's pretty clear. But I just want to just kind of throw in one, I mean, narrative, whatever. This was 2 games ago. I remember this when they were down like 15 points in the third quarter or whatever in Game 5. Millsap kind of scored 14 points in the third quarter to kind of lead the team back, and he didn't see the court in the fourth quarter. And the announcers, they were really setting up Malone to be a real freaking just bad man if they lost, because they were saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe they're leaving Porter in." Millsap led this team back. Porter's done nothing the whole game, and Porter made a couple of nice plays near the end of the game, whatever. They ended up winning, but they kept on flashing back to Millsap, really just kind of steamed on the bench that he wasn't getting back into the game. And I don't know what happened in Game 6 because I really didn't watch it. But I don't know if Millsap was given kind of at least a better chance to close or whatever. But I don't know.
He doesn't really close for them much anymore. I mean, he will sometimes be in there. They rotate a lot at the end of games too. They do offense for defense. They'll do different switches. They'll bring in Morris sometimes. They don't have consistent. Look, to me, it's a recipe for disaster the way Malone coaches all the time. But maybe in a series where you're an underdog like this, it's actually exactly what you needed. And it's basically been it's not even hot hand. It's a weird hand mentality that he's got. Mostly, I think he wants to make sure he's got guys who can guard George and Kawhi. And that's where Jeremy Grant being switchable, Gary Harris are going to be out there all the time. Or sorry, you'd think Jeremy Grant would be out there, but he wasn't in the last one. And but Gary Harris will be out there all the time. He just fouled out of the last one. That's why he wasn't there. I think they didn't bring Grant back. I mean, look, it's weird, man. I don't know. To guess Mike Malone's rotations is impossible because you could ask Mike Malone right now, and he'll have no answer for you. He has no idea who's closing this game for him. Zero idea who's closing this game for him. I promise you that. And that's what makes this really, really tough. But it also makes it fun because we get to speculate on the guys who we think maybe should be closing, like Porter. And I think that if you're down a little bit late or if it's a back and forth, you're going to see Porter rotating in with Grant or with Millsap at the end of the game, potentially, maybe even with Morris in certain spots for offense, for defense. And that's how I'm looking at it. So we got asked a good question by Chad Warren on Facebook. And the question is, do you want a core 4 of who I'm playing tonight? So I'll give you my core 4. But remember, I play tournaments, but also some of these guys are safe, some aren't. Kawhi, Pat Beverly, Jokic, and you can say Paul George, Michael Porter. I like both those guys a lot. I like Paul George better on FanDuel, but I still like him on DraftKings too. And that's sort of my core, I guess. And Gary Harris would be maybe the next guy to add. I also am mixing in some Iguodala's, and I'm getting in some of the JaMychal Green stuff and Kendrick Nunn. So I'm going some weird plays with those, but those are sort of my core guys, I think. I feel Eric on Kemba on DK. I think I'm going to have him in one of my lineups. But I don't love him to go crazy today. And also I mostly want to spend up on the second game. So maybe a little bit less high on him than the field is going to be. Actually, definitely less high on him than the field's going to be. I'll put it that way.
I'm having trouble getting Leonard and George in together.
They asked me if the core is the same for FanDuel and DraftKings. I know you're going to have trouble. That's why I realize that. That's why I'm excited about it. It should at least lower the combined ownership because I'm playing it with Jokic too. It's basically the same core for me on FanDuel. I think JaMychal Green's a little bit you can pay down at power forward. There's a lot of wild cards at power forward over there, and I'm kind of needing to. Lou Williams I like a little bit better on FanDuel. Kemba Walker I like better on FanDuel. Tyler Hero I like better on FanDuel. Paul George is better on FanDuel. But they're all still it's mainly the same group of guys. I'm stacking the hell out of the Game 7 just because I think even in a blowout-ish situation, I think you're going to see 1 million minutes. And it's going to open things up for somebody to, a Porter or something like that. That's sort of where I'm at. And by the way, in terms of who we like, just to reiterate that, I like Miami, and I like a little bit. I don't love it. I like the Clippers, but I don't know if I necessarily want to bet on covering 7.5 points in a Game 7, although I think that's more likely than not. Let's see. What do I think about the total? What do I think total lands around? Oh, LA Clippers, Denver. I mean, it depends on. That's if I like, I don't know. It's probably somewhere in the 210 range. I don't know. But I don't think that the totals what you're worried about. You're worried about condensed usage. I kept saying this in the Miami-Boston series, and I felt the Boston-Toronto series, and I felt like no one was listening to me. And people kept yelling at me on our other ones, like afterwards. Well, what about the total in this game? Why don't you want to stack this game? Why is this game better? Like, it's condensed usage is so much more important than totals. So much. It's not even close. So you have a pretty condensed usage group of guys between Jokic, Kawhi, and Paul George, and that's what I'm going with. Game 7 could be slower paced, but they've all been slow paced. But it doesn't matter. Right? I don't understand what does slow pace mean. Does that mean that Miami and Boston, first of all, are by far slower teams than these are in general? So I don't know. I'm not going to go and just assume that because it's a Game 7, it's going to be slower than the other game. But I don't think it matters. And if there was a specific question you were asking, I would love to answer it. I just don't understand. You said just for DFS purposes, but I don't think this is the spot where you're trying to look at totals for DFS purposes when you have two similarly games we would totally ignore on regular slates. But this is a Game 7. That's just where I'm at. Anyway. All right, Sheets, you want to jump over to baseball?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's do it. I'm going to pull up my baseball screens. Guys, remember to please like and subscribe. We're doing these videos for free. Really want to remind you that. And also thanks to the people at BetQL and QLTV. Make sure you're following them. And please like and subscribe. Also, if you do want to join BetQL, please use the promo code BobbyFi for 20% off of everything. Much appreciated. And it'll be, I'm telling you, it'll be worth the money, especially with football season going on right now. So make sure to try and get that in. All right, let's jump over to baseball. And Sheets, I was thinking, instead of doing game by game today, are you prepared to do position by position, or do you want to do game by game?
Yeah, I'll go position by position. I
thought it might be kind of fun for a change because it gets a little weird with the giant MLB slates that people sort of get lost by the end, and we can always go back and talk about positions. So I thought maybe it'd be good to try it that way. But before we get to positions, as an overall, we talked over some pitchers we liked earlier in the day. So would you like to just start us off with the pitchers that you'll be playing the most of, you think?
Yeah. Still want to get a little bit of confirmation on the win situation in Chicago, but at DK, I'm going to be paying up for Flaherty, and I'm going to do a little bit of Carrasco. Boyd, I'm going to play maybe some of, but I'm not going to go nuts. And there are three cheaper guys that you could be choosing from, like Urquidy, Garcia, and Anderson. And depending on the nature of the hitters, like if in my more chalkier hitting lineups, I'll probably use Anderson, and in the in the more kind of off the board hitting lineups, I'll probably use Urquidy or probably a Garcia.
Yeah. So I like on FanDuel, the guys I'll be using the most will be Flaherty, Boyd.
Yep.
Basically similar things. I don't know if I'm going to get to the Urquidy thing myself. I'm still debating on that one. I sort of liked your idea of some of the Texas bats. I like Garcia, and I like Anderson a tiny bit. I also don't mind Dunning. I do like my Minnesota stack, but I could see Dunning having another solid game here. They've been struggling a little bit. Kid's got pretty good stuff. But I also like the Minnesota side of that, so it's a little bit of a tricky one. I don't think I left anybody out, but you could throw Carrasco. I'm using him a little bit on both sides, but not a ton. And I might end up changing that. I still think the wind's going to be blowing out a little bit. I just think that on FanDuel especially, like my thing is I just want to play the pitcher. I want to win the position. Let me win the position. Every now and then I'll change my mind and I'll go low on a pitcher or something like that. But mostly I really want to win the position on FanDuel. So I think that Carrasco and obviously and you have the best upside on the slate, but I think Carrasco will be significantly lower owned. And I actually think the Cubs have more strikeouts in their lineup than the Cleveland Indians do. So that's where I'm at.
This is kind of cool going by position because you don't do it too often. If you have to see what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the way I kind of look at the slate on my sheets and stuff, and it's kind of interesting to do it position by position. So let's do this actually.
All right, I'm into it. Real quick before we go positions though, let's talk about some stacks because we'll get to them at the end too. But I don't want to always wait till the end because I'm going to say through so many guys, but I'd like him in a stack or whatever. You know what I mean? So for me, the main stacks tonight, maybe a little bit of I might do a mini Philly, New York game, probably maybe like only two guys from those games actually. I like the Twins, Braves, maybe a mini stack from Arizona, although I don't like the popularity. And the Twins and Braves I'm finding to be my main ones. I'm still flirting with Houston and the Angels. That's where I'm at.
On FanDuel, I am going to play the A's. They're going to be chalky, but I'm going to be playing them with kind of a random assortment of kind of like hopefully low-owned two-mans.
Mm-hmm.
I really couldn't find any great options as far as stacking stuff on FanDuel.
Maybe that's where you play your San Francisco guys is in your fans over there.
I'm going to.
Yeah, if you play those because that's a combination people won't use, especially because Belt and Olsen. I'm not going to do it anyway. They're both first base eligible.
Yeah. But on DraftKings, I'm totally with you on the Twins. And I don't know if you mentioned the Angels, but the Angels, I got your approval for the Angels. So the Angels are good. And I'll probably take a shot with the Texas dudes on there also. I don't think I'm stacking Arizona at high ownership. Like you said, well, I mean, who needs it? And I don't think I'm going to do any full Oakland stacks on DraftKings just because of the ownership.
All right. Yeah, I'm sort of a little bit fading more of that Colorado game. Obviously, Colorado and Oakland are fine. I might even end up with a mini stack of them, but at these ownerships, I can find other things, I think. All right, let's talk about it. It's catcher. Well, we know the chalk is probably going to be, I guess, the Colorado guys, Murphy and Diaz. I would prefer Diaz between the two. Save a little bit extra pricing. And otherwise, I'm mostly looking at stacks with guys like d'Arnaud and Ryan Jeffers. How about you?
Yeah, Carson Kelly at 2K, part of what makes Arizona, rate as a good value stack. Jeffers, 2,200. Those are my, again, there's nobody really exciting. I don't want to spend up for d'Arnaud or Sanchez today. So I'm probably going to be going cheap. And so, as I said, Kelly, Jeffers, and I mean, Murphy, 3,900. He's going to be probably popular as part of the stack. Other guy who's not bad, by the way, is this guy from Seattle, this Luis Torrens. He actually usually gets a decent lineup spot. So maybe him at 2,100, but I'm not looking to get a lot of points out of my catchers today.
Yeah, I think that I mentioned this pay ups. I think the d'Arnaud and the stacks is fine. I like Jeffers anyway. I don't care just about stack. I think that he's actually him and Diaz would be the guys I'd want to pay down for the most at catcher. I did just notice that Salvador Perez back in the lineup for KC, which I hadn't noticed yet. You could say he's in play against Boyd as well, where you're not playing Boyd. And now I'm a little bit annoyed. It does make Boyd a little bit less interesting, makes their lineup a little more formidable. Anyway, it's just something to think about. But if you're going to pay all the way, I don't think I'm going to play Grandal. But if you were going to play all the way up, that would be the guy. But yeah, it's the Colorado guys, and then these other guys are parts of stacks for me. I think that's pretty much it.
Yep.
All right, what are we doing at first base?
Clearly, the best play is Matt Olson.
Yep.
He's going to be high owned. I mean, he's very, gun to your head. Who's the best play? Matt Olson by, I guess a decent amount. And you know what? And again, not that I'm going to play like a bunch of these guys together, but yeah, Christian Walker 3,200 is very, very strong. So he's my next best value there. And then we already talked about maybe playing Freddie Freeman. And again, in San Francisco, if you want to do this, Brandon Belt's only 3,600.
Yeah, I like the Belt call, especially. I personally, I don't know about this Arizona thing. Like, I don't know if these projections are quite accurate, but I feel like it's just way too much, this ownership for these guys. Look, you can use Jake Lamb also in that Oakland game. He's 2.5K. You can really do what you want with pitching because of these values out there. There's values at every position. I'll mention all of them. Matt Olson's going to be such mega chalk on DraftKings. I'm still going to play him like if I play two big lineups tonight, two really big buy-ins. I think he'll probably be in one of them. I would say that if you're playing if I was scripting out 100 lineups, I would probably want to be below the field at 25%. It's just there's just enough other good plays, and for me, those guys would be Freddie Freeman. I love. I like Pete Alonso a little bit at his price. Luke Voigt, if you're going to make a Yankees mini stack, like I was talking about maybe on our other show, but I don't think I'll actually get there. And then I liked your call, but I also really like Hunter Dozier today. And if you're not playing Boyd, I'm gonna end up stacking KC by the end of the day. Hunter Dozier, I mean, look, I know BBP isn't everything. He's absolutely, first of all, pitch type wise and his BBP, he's just massacred over what's his name, Boyd in the past. I think he's 10 for 16 with like 4 home runs, and he's also been on fire lately. He's batting 5th. He's reasonably priced. I would rather use him at first base than the outfield. So if I'm not using Boyd, that might be the first baseman I go to.
Or do second base?
Yeah, I want to say what's up to Harry. Harry, what's up, man? Harry's in Facebook. He just said, what's up, Bobby and Sheets? And just yelling back to him. But yeah, let's go to second base.
Second base for me is easy. So the cash game play, whatever that I'm not playing, is Josh Rojas at 3,200. More Arizona stuff. The easier not the easier GP play, but the GPP play that people are going to try to get in is Tommy La Stella, who's obviously in a good spot. But my favorite play, just kind of like by a lot now, is going to be Odor. I mean, second base, 3,100, and that's going to be my favorite. And then the next best guy for me is, so it's funny, it's a guy that you mentioned kind of in passing. Kind of what seems to be not overpriced, but at least he's fairly priced. From Detroit, Scope. So he's another guy. So I'll give you those 4. So Rojas, if you want to be a wimp and do that. La Stella, if you want to do Oakland stacks, and then Odor would be my favorite overall.
Yeah, I've totally come around to your side on this one. For me, it's actually a totally different thing. Otherwise, it's Odor and Albies. Like, I love Albies here. I think this is just way too – I don't care that he's batting 9th. I love it. I think that nobody's going to be on him. I truly think that he would be the cash game spend-up if he was batting first tonight. I really think that. He's been on fire lately. I mean, not on fire, but he's put up double-digit his last 3 games, 20 or more in 3 of the last 4. He's hit home runs in 2 of the last 4. He's stolen a couple bases. He stole 3 bases in the last 5. He's doing his thing again. He's back to being Ozzie Albies against a terrible pitcher and a terrible bullpen. Let's go Ozzie Albies. And I like my Brave stack, but even outside of my Brave stack, I could see him in a little mini 2 or 3. I'd probably like to get him in with somebody else because he's so he's batting 9th. But I mean, Albies and Odor are like my favorite guys, and honestly, I like Robinson Cano quite a bit. So I'm not going to have any ownership on my guys. If you want to have 20% owned guys at 3.2K who have never in their life hit a home run, you can do that. I'm just not going to be that person. That's just not how my brain operates. If you want to take another 20% guy who's 2K, who's I think hit like 1 home run in 2 years, you can do that. That's not the way that I play, so I'm not going to play Josh Van Meter as much. I just don't like doing that. And then you have the high-priced Tommy La Stella, who I like tonight, but I would just much rather play my guys at cheaper prices.
Yeah, one other guy I forgot to see because he was dual position eligible is if you want to get some Coors exposure, you can play Garrett Hampson. He's second base eligible, so you can play him.
Yeah, the Odor play is I'm loving this. And he's on fire, 3 home runs in a row against a guy who doesn't strike people. Let's go. I mean, Odor and Gallo, the 2-man, you really got me on that one. All right, I'll start third base since you start second, I guess.
Okay.
And real quick, let me grab my ownerships.
Third base for me is like so many guys. Yeah, go ahead. I'm curious who you.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, look, I don't. Anytime you get Arenado versus lefty at home, you can always go for it. Obviously. Also, you could also play the cheap Oakland guy, but I'd prefer him at short. Machin, he's 3K. I really like Alec Baum, 2.7. I don't think we've seen the best from this kid yet. I like him a lot. I love Anthony Rendon, and I just don't think the Angels are going to get the ownership that we might have thought. So that 3-man Trout, Rendon, Upton stack is looking better and better to me. I just don't think the ownership. Maybe he gets to 10% Rendon, but like this is a spot where like if there was. I don't know. To me, he should be he's the best play on the slate. If you ask me who the most often scores the highest here, I think Rendon and Arenado are right like neck and neck, and Rendon's going to be significantly less owned. And I think just to be honest, I think Rendon's just a better hitter in every which way than Arenado is, personally. He just doesn't happen to play in Coors and has always played in more pitchers' parts. Those are the guys I'm using mostly. I like Austin Riley in stacks. I like Josh Donaldson. But those are J.D. Davis I like on FanDuel, not on DraftKings. But he's an outfielder over there. And then Muncy you could use Muncy, but I'm just naming names at this point. I'm sticking with those guys mostly who I named at the beginning. Somewhere between Bohm, Rendon, Bohm down, Rendon up, Riley, my middle, and Donaldson. Sorry.
Yeah, you hit on the guys that I like. I would rank just if anybody cares. I would rank Donaldson a little higher. Maybe just because I like the Minnesota stack, I guess. I rank them a little higher. You could certainly, again, this guy is not as bad as the Rojas guy. I mean, if you want to play a 2K guy who's not going to do anything, you could probably try Isaac Parodies if you want. Maybe he won't be for the same 20% owned as a Rojas. But aside from that,
he's definitely not. He's going to be 0% owned, so that's okay.
So you probably covered, but you covered pretty much it.
All right, you ready to talk about shorts? Shortstop?
All right. So where am I? My favorite shortstop, again, the two chalkiest guys are going to be, I mean, the guys I like the most, I guess, would be Semien and Story. I don't know how much I'm going to actually play of them, but they're probably I would say the best players, whatever. It's kind of hard to describe what I'm trying to say here. I'm going to go back to what we talked about earlier. This is not exactly the best matchup for him, given his skill set, but I will say that Alberto Mondesi's been really doing really, really well. But like we said, I mean, if you're going to play guys against Boyd, you want like kind of home run power, and Mondesi, his stolen base upside is not exactly the same against the lefty. So aside from those top two, Semien and Story, I don't really have a lot, honestly, at the shortstop position. Everybody's just kind of just tied for being a little bit worse than all of them.
Yeah, this is the place to me where you can eat some chalk. Like, I don't mind. I've talked about a lot of contrarian plays so far. I don't need to do it every single position. So I don't mind taking Semien or Story. I would side a little bit with Story. Actually, I would definitely side with Story on DraftKings at the close price. Story and Arenado's numbers at home against lefties are just out of this world. Like, they're really absurd. But so I would probably side with them. But again, I don't need to eat the chalk if I do want to get different, and I've got my A stack, and I don't want to play Semien. Maybe I play Corey Seager instead at basically the same price and no ownership. Yeah, Davies has been good this year. Corey Seager's hit good pitchers all year. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not these Dodgers can all hit anytime you want to plug in a Dodger. I mentioned Muncy before. You can always play Bellinger or Betts too. Like, I'm not going to stack the Dodgers tonight, but I do think all of these guys are fine plays. And by the way, if it was opening day, the Dodgers would have about a 5.5 run total, maybe 6, and probably be the chalk on the slate. Just want to point that out. So just remember what recency bias will do. And yeah, it's been a full season, but it's been a full, whatever. It's been a full month and a half. And let's keep that in mind when it comes to Adam Davies. I don't think he's going to win the Cy Young anytime soon, although he's actually having a pretty great year. Didi Gregorius is going to be low owned. He's like the interesting in-between play. Him and Dansby Swanson are pretty close for me, along with the Young. But I think that Swanson, because I like the Braves, will end up in a good portion of my lineups. I don't think I'm going to get to Polanco even in my Minnesota stacks as much, because I really do prefer those other guys.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. All right, the outfield, man. You got. I guess I'll start it since you got to start the last one. But this is going to be another one of those where you've got so many options that I don't know if they're going to be as chalky today. I don't know if anyone is going to be. The normal one will probably be Calhoun. He's probably the guy you're looking at who's got the most chalk. I don't think it's because he's going back to Anaheim so much. It's because he's cheap and Teheran struggles with lefties, and people like Arizona today. And then I think you get guys like Gross, and I'm okay with fading these kind of guys without really a ton of power. And you could also argue the other side, that Robbie Grossman's an awesome play because, the thing he lacks the most is power, and that, maybe that can help him out in Coors. He can also steal you a base, so he's got a little bit of other upside, but Mike Trout's going to be pretty popular. Mark Canha's going to be pretty popular. I'm not so into these guys. Who I am into is the Minnesota guys as a stack, but I don't particularly want them as one-offs, although I don't mind if our boy Buxton was a little higher in the order, throwing him in at 2.6. And even if he's not, he's 2.6. Come on. I would prefer him against low strikeout lefties but instead of a high strikeout righty, but he's 2.6. We've also got this is where maybe the Baltimore guys come into play a little bit, and honestly, like, the weird part is after the monster night last night that they had, can we really believe that there's going to be zero ownership on a 2.4 DJ Stewart, a 2.5 Cedric Mullins, a 3.4 Ryan Mountcastle? And, I mean, like, all of those guys are, I think, strong plays. Sheets, what do you got for me?
Yeah, I got other guys also in the outfield that are really cheap. So, and I'll go over them, but it goes to show, I mean, if you end up like, this is what can happen. You could run an optimizer, whether it be, I don't even want to say names, but whoever's optimizer you run, and the optimizer is going to be based on the median projections that they throw in there. And if for whatever reason Rojas or one of these 2K guys projects to be like 0.07 points better than someone else, from 5.39 to 5.48 or something like that, you'll end up with 80% of them. You know what I mean? And it's ridiculous. I mean, you have to have a little bit of a sense for knowing what kind of variance there is, especially with these freaking cheap guys. Like, for example, I mean, it's just as good as these Baltimore guys. Again, you tell me they're not going to be owned. You go back to the Tavares at 2K from Texas.
Yeah.
Philip Irvin is playing again. You know what I mean? He's 2,100 in Seattle. So, I mean, like, all those guys you could play. Or, like you said, I mean,
wouldn't you rather the Baltimore guys, like, if they're all going to be unowned, so why don't you just play the guys who are unowned, who are in a better spot, in a spot where we've already seen them basically succeed in what's going to be essentially a bullpen game in a great hitter's park at low ownership? I just don't see the reason. I agree with about Tavares, too, because he's leading off. But, yeah, those guys should be in that same category. The one guy we didn't mention was Willie Calhoun from Texas. Did you mention him?
No, but he's in my main FanDuel lineup right now.
I think he's like the best of. I think he's the best of these guys.
If he plays, I mean, he had a spring.
He's in the lineup. Batting second. He's in the lineup.
They have a lineup out?
Yeah.
Oh crap. Okay.
So, and yeah, I mean, as is DJ Stewart, who's batting third. So look, there's plenty of places to save on these outfielders. I still love the idea of Gallo. Honestly, with the low strikeout thing of the Urquidy thing, I don't think I want to get into more than 3 guys on Texas. But getting 2 or 3 is right where I'd like to be. Because I just concede that, with this low strikeout stuff, I mean, against this team, that's like their major issue. 90% of these guys, that's what they struggle with. And you eliminate all that. I did mention Justin Upton before as that part of the stack thing, the mini stack of the Angels. But I love Justin Upton. I think he's actually going to be it's going to be so spread out, guys. It's going to be so spread out in the outfield ownership. So we can really do basically whatever we want in the outfield, especially because we just talked about a lot of pivots in the infield. And we mentioned a bunch of great ones in the outfield, too. Like, I cannot believe these guys are going to be unowned, but because of the way that things are set up, they're going to get more owned than the current projections have them, but it's still, they're going to be lower owned than you think.
There's a lot of guys that, I mean, like, probably the most, I thought one of the most popular is probably going to be Laureano, no? I mean, out of that game at 4,300?
Sure. Yeah, that's the other, but that's like a different price. I was talking about the cheap guys.
Okay.
There's just a slew of guys at 2 and 21 and 23.
Jorge Bonifacio at 2K.
Yeah, not for me. I like guys who hit home runs. I can't do it. Yeah. I think I got upside at least, the home run upside a little bit.
The other guy that you mentioned, if you're going to play these Alex Bombs and these Phillies, you can play this is Halsey 2K minimum?
Hazley? Alex Baum is like a real baseball player hitting third. Why would I want to play it? We just talked about how strong a position is. A guy who can't hit batting 8.
Yeah, I got you.
I'd rather go the other way personally. I think Bowman is actually going to be a good player. All right, Chiefs. Let's sum it up for the people real quick and just talk I mentioned the stacks at the beginning, but again, Braves, Twins are my main ones tonight, along with parts of Oakland, and I'm going to have one Houston stack and get a little pieces of Texas. That's sort of where I'm at.
Yeah, there was a Houston guy that I was going to mention to you earlier. If you were going to go back to that, is just don't completely forget that Alex Bregman is a good baseball player.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you play, the crazy part is you're getting 0 ownership on all of Houston. They're all basically reasonable. We haven't seen this lineup from them in a while, so they're facing an awful team. I mean, it just might be like on a day like today, this is the time where they break out for the 10 runs. So that's mostly what I'm going for.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm giving a slight downgrade to, even though I'm still going to play him some, I'm giving a slight downgrade to Matt Boyd.
Trying to think. So I see Calhoun not playing.
Oh, really?
I see him not playing. I have a lineup here.
Oh,
no, he is playing. Sorry about that. He's hitting second.
Yeah.
So I have. Oh my God, I have this. Oh, any chance we can get Jake Lamb playing today?
Yeah, I think he's in, isn't he? Or he was.
This is. I don't think it's an Oakland lineup yet.
Yeah, I don't think we have the lineup yet. I think he's just projected that way.
You can do that. You can right now. My initial FanDuel build is just Oakland and Texas, but the Oakland guys are not. Well, it's got a couple of chalks, but it's got Jake Lamb and if Steven Piscotty playing him. So I'm gonna look at this again.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I do like Oakland fine, but I think they even had this match. I want to double check something real quick. What happened in this matchup? Because look, I'm always looking for a reason to not play the guys who are 20+%, even if it's a part of. I might want to play one of them, but I don't want to play all of these guys. I think we've had this matchup with Senzatella this year for some reason. I just want to make sure to see how he kind of fared against them because Oakland. Yeah, we did it. That was the first game of the season. That's what it was. And Oakland was a chalk stack at home. That's right.
This is pretty funny.
So
I'm looking at this lineup here. I wish you could see this though, and it's got this Piscotty as like my fourth A in like the utility, and I'm looking at 500 left to spend, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm gonna find the 500 and spend it on Freddie Freeman as opposed to freaking Steven Piscotty. I think call me dumb.
Yeah,
or Anthony Rendon. You know what I mean? Or something.
Yeah. I mean, unless it's part of like a full, and I guess unless you need it as part of the stack, I'm siding other ways personally.
Yeah.
I do think the pitching is super interesting tonight. I don't think it's hard to get the top guys in if you want to, but I actually think that Flaherty wins the slate enough of the time. I think that Carrasco does, and I think Darvish does. So I think your normal thing, like if you're playing cash, would be you, Darvish, and probably. I think you could play him and Flaherty pretty easily. I think that's probably what you would do.
Who, Darvish and Flaherty?
Super easy to do. You put Darvish and Carrasco, no problem. I mean, you don't need to play these guys, even the Oakland guys. You got guys just priced so far down. It's and good hitters too, like guys with real pop. You know what I mean? Like this is not, Justin Upton versus Bumgarner is not a bad matchup. And
right,
Calhoun batting second for the guy who literally ran all of baseball. Was it last year or the year before for like 2 months? And I'll take it, man. I'll take those shots. I'm starting to think, by the way, the more I thought about it, I'm here. The one guy who's maybe the low-owned pitcher who maybe sneaks into the winning lineup that we didn't mention is Eunice. If there's some way he gets a few more pitches up there against this Detroit lineup, anything is possible. And if he can go 6 innings, he can strike out 7 guys or 6 guys and put up 20+ fantasy points. Just throwing him out there. I'm not going to use him, but I'm considering him now into relation to Garcia and Urquidy. All right, Sheets, I think we're about out of here, guys. I'm going to say ask some QQs. Remember to like and subscribe, but get your last QQs in. Please do it. Tell the people at BetQL that we're doing a great job. Tell them we're doing a terrible job. Tell them whatever. But no, sign up with BetQL. Use the promo code BobbyFi. And, make sure to get the QQs in before we get out of here, and we'll try to answer them. I know we had a lot more people during the basketball section, which, with football and coming up, I think we need to sort of start headlining these shows as like football shows when they come up, because people really do love the football and basketball stuff. Baseball, I feel like it's funny. Sheets, I don't know if I'm crazy, but I feel like people are not quite as into it as they were at the start of the year. Am I nuts?
I don't know. I'm into it.
Of course, we're into it, but you win everything. This guy just wins all the money, so that's what happens. Hey, Jamie, what's up, buddy? We'll do a PGA video tomorrow. We'll have the football stuff this weekend. We're going to be busy guys for a little bit, and we'll get you all the good stuff. But guys, I think with all that being said, one more like, please, on the video, and otherwise we're going to get out of here. And thanks so much for tuning in. Sheets, anything before I hang up on this?
Yeah, I have one last betting take. I thought about this. And I am going to release my 2.2 star special of the Miami Celtic game to go over, actually.
Whoa! The first over of the year for Sheets, as far as I've heard. I swear to God. On every other – the first playoff over. First bubble over. I'll tell you what. I'll give it to you. You've been right on the over-unders. I swear, it's got to be at least 80% of the time. I can't remember you being wrong off the top of my head.
Well, I was wrong when I picked the Celtic Toronto under when they had to go to triple overtime to beat me.
Oh, that's right. How did you not? I mean, come on, man. Get that one together. All right, guys. For Sheets, I'm Bobby saying we're out of here. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you at the top of the leaderboards.
All right. See you later, Bobby. Good luck.